Brandon, I see you have a follow-up question. Are you available to come on camera to ask so we can have more engagement here?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, that was an interesting response. Very cool. So when you're buying these parks, you can look for, in a sense, you look for ones that already look like a kind of a well taken care of community that maybe higher quality residents that are already taking care of their homes. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, that's how my approach would be today. If I look back to when we got started, I was looking for any mobile home park where there was a substantial amount of obvious value add potential that was present. Sometimes you
Right.
can't see it. So like it could look like a nice park, but you don't know how it's being run. And then when you start to look at the financials, you recognize, oh my gosh, they have 7 employees working here and it only takes two. And their rent is 30% behind the market and their payroll is 4x what it should be, and they're using all these outside vendors when they could just hire a maintenance person. And you could start to see how you can recharacterize the operations, and there's a lot of value add that you can do there. So I would prefer to have that kind of value add over the physical nature of the value add. Sometimes it's a combination of both, but for the most part, I'm looking for properties where the bones are good, the quality is already there, even though maybe it's been neglected. Maybe it's a 3-star park, but it looks like a 2-star park because it's just been ignored. No money's been put back into it. We purchased a park in Mesa, Arizona. There was potholes on every street. You literally needed a truck.
Mm.
You couldn't drive a car in there. That's how bad it was. The clubhouse was shut down. The office was being used, but barely. The pool needed to be redone and the everything needed to be redone. And then there was a host of permanent RVs in there that looked like they were camping on the beach in California, like squatters almost. It was just the type of people that were there was because the park was not being kept up. That's the only kind of people you can attract, right? So we came in and redid all the common amenities and redid the clubhouse and the pool area and all of that stuff and redid all the pavement. We ended up gating it and making it a nice, really nice 4-star community. Now we can attract the absolute best residents from that tenant pool in the marketplace. And we brand new homes, we're selling brand new homes in there. So it's a completely different park today because of that reposition. Whereas you could have never attracted that tenant in its condition before. So sometimes reposition of the physical nature of the property is required before you can attract the tenants that you really want.
Awesome. I love it. Do you look for upside in the same fashion that you, or a similar fashion to the way that you looked for upside in a multifamily deal? Look for vacancies in the form of empty pads, places you can recondition park-owned homes or place newer homes on empty pads and sell those to the tenants, and then from there on out they own the home and you just rent the lot to them. Is that how that kind of works?
The philosophy or the psychology is the same. We're looking for properties where the expenses are higher than they should be and the income is lower than it should be. And then many times there's ancillary opportunity in addition to what kind of generic or fundamentals are. Like, for example, there's 100% occupied and they don't even use their office building and it's just closed all the time. And the owner stores all of his crap in there. Okay, that's an income stream. We took one of our parks with that scenario and we turned that into 4 executive office suites and a gym and then an office for our manager as well. And the residents get to use the gym. It's just one of the amenities, but we leased out those other 4 executive offices it's essentially like creating 6 more lots, but it was way simpler to do. They're paying us $600 a month, where the lot rent at that property was only like five. Simple things like that, areas where you can add additional lots like within the property and just tap into the existing utilities. There's a bunch of those ancillary things that you can do that we don't underwrite to. Those end up being extra, but if you really want to squeeze all of the juice out of the lemon, that's you want to look for those kind of things as well.
Awesome. That's so great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Terry, are you available to come on video? No. Okay. I'll just read your question, Terry. The question is, do you accommodate 1031 investors if check size is large enough? And what is the typical deal size? What cap rates are you buying at? And what is the current cost of debt?
Yeah, a lot of great questions. First of all, we don't do 1031 exchanges. That would require a tick structure, and we currently don't do that. We could, but maybe for a single investor doing a single deal with 5 million bucks, like maybe that would make sense. But because the bonus depreciation is so attractive This bonus depreciation strategy is referred to often as the lazy man's 1031 exchange. So you could still gain, in some cases, more benefit from a bonus depreciation strategy than you could from a 1031 exchange. So we haven't had to. That's why we haven't pursued it. We have enough capital excited about the bonus depreciation tax strategy that we haven't had to offer that. He asked a question of current debt. Agency debt right now is going to be somewhere, depends on the quality of the asset, but it's somewhere between, call it 120 and 150 bips over the 10-year, mid to upper fives right now. You're going to be able to get, on a decent quality mobile home park, you're probably going to get a 10-year fixed rate with an introductory 2 to 5 years of interest only, somewhere in the mid fives to 5.75 right now. That's what you get.
That's great. What kind of cap rates are you buying at or targeting? I guess maybe the question should be more like, what's your target stabilized yield on cost?
Yeah, and I think it depends on where the property is. And I'll give you a little nuance here, and this will probably help out. So in Phoenix, lately, the largest transaction in history took place where Carlisle purchased from a professional owner like ourselves a 700 lot community. The cap rate was sub 3. That was in the twos. And it was a fully stabilized asset with no juice left to squeeze. So it doesn't make sense to most people who are analyzing real estate in other asset classes. The challenge that exists here, before I finish that comment, we purchased a property in Omaha, Nebraska, which is still one of the fastest growing markets in the United States. Over 1 million people that live there. Warren Buffett country. Cap rates are in the 6 range, right around 6 for stabilized product there. But the challenge that you have in this asset class is we have scarcity. So there are more parks knocked over for redevelopment on an annual basis than there are new parks built. So historically, for every 10 new parks that are brought online, for every 1 new park that's brought online, there are 10 parks that disappear forever. So they're extremely hard to build because you have to have a combination of zoning, utility solutions, and in a favorable environment from both the neighbors and the whole not in my backyard program thing that you have. And it's really in most markets that are primary or secondary markets, a new mobile home park would be a loss leader to tax revenue for the city. So because they have to provide fire and police and school, the tax revenue that they generate is less than what they pay for those services to provide those services to the residents. So more likely what ends up happening is older mobile home parks get knocked over for redevelopment into something that's a higher and better use, where you can get 20 times the tax revenue off that property. So apartments, for example. So because of that, this asset class is going away. And the quality real estate, or the mid to higher quality real estate in this asset class, is always going to command a lower cap rate than other asset classes will command. That did not used to be the case. A decade ago, you were paying a 4 or 5 cap for an apartment, and you were expecting a 200 bip delta to the manufactured housing. Now it's the other way around. So you're in a primary market with a quality stabilized asset, you're probably looking at 3 to 4 cap on the exit value, and apartments are probably 5 to 6 cap. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's just the market. That's how it is.
Yeah, so your strategy is value add though, so you end up with a higher yield than going in 6 on a stabilized then.
Yeah, and I think a vanilla deal that we're going to do, we're probably buying a coupon of 2 to 3% year 1, and then that moves to 9 to 10%, so 8 to 10% in year 7. That's the coupon. That's what we're generically looking for. Now that'll be different if there's a heavy infill, a project with a lot of vacancy. Maybe the IRR on that first example is 14, whereas a heavy infill project might have 0 cash flow in years 1 and 2, and you start to deliver some kind of coupon in year 3, but the IRR is a 20 because it's got such heavy value.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the flavor of the deal when you acquire it.
All right, good. Thank you.
Okay, CB, are you available to come on to ask your question? I can't hear you if you're talking, CB.
Hi, I'm just curious, how do you screen your tenant?
Say that again. How do we what?
What's the process of screening a tenant?
Probably in a similar fashion that you would in an apartment. We go through a screening process, not for them to purchase the home, but for them to be a resident in our community. So it's about background checks and the same kind of metrics that we'd use in any other real estate. But then on top of that, because they're going to purchase a piece of real or they're going to purchase a home from us, they also have to have the requisite down payment funds available and credit score so that they can get financing on the home. So there's a little bit more screening that goes on. It's a two-step screening, unless we're exercising a rent credit program. So for people that have great credit, they have great income, but they don't have the down payment, there are times when we'll allow them to rent from us. They're really the owner. It's like a lease to own, but they'll build up their down payment over 12 to 18 months and then they'll purchase the property or the home from us.
Got it. I heard you talk about you're the dealer for those homes as well too. What does that mean when you say you're dealer? Like is it like the car dealership, you dealer, or you actually? I just wonder about the process.
Yeah, so in the mobile home park business, you can't purchase directly from the manufacturer unless you have a dealer's license. So if you drive around most cities, you're going to see these dealerships on the road, on the corner of every city, where they have 5 or 6 models on display, and you come in there and you talk to them and you could purchase one. They're a dealer. They're buying them directly from the manufacturer. But they'll also provide all the services for you to move it and set it up and provide financing and all those kind of things, just like we would. They're really a guide. The difference between us using a dealer, and this is why it's important in a business where you're scaling, that you're seeking to scale in your business. If there's profitability in the home and I'm the dealer, I get the profit, which means our LPs get that cash flow distributed to them. So if we're going to sell 100 homes on a piece of property and there's, let's say, even $5,000 per home in profit, that's a lot of money that you could distribute to your LPs. So if we use a third-party dealer on the street, they're the ones that get that profitability. And then we get our homes, our sites filled up, so that's nice. And we're not doing the work, so that's nice. But it just it gives us one more lever that we can pull when we're in charge of the type of homes that we're buying. We know exactly what home is going to fit on each lot, and we can order them to suit what our kind of like grand vision for the property. So we're in control when we're the dealer.
Do you require them, like if they rent the lot from you, the pot from you, that they must buy it from you? Do you make it a requirement?
No, because sometimes the purchases are from another resident that lives in our park.
Okay.
So yeah, all of the new product is going to be from us. Unless we have an agreement, sometimes we'll incentivize local dealers to bring homes in and fill up vacant spaces too. It doesn't hurt us to do that. So we'll do that as well. But primarily our infill strategy is we're the ones managing that process. But when somebody wants to sell, and this is go back to that conversation that we had about turnover, the expensive cost of turnover in most real estate is you have vacancy. What happens when a mobile home park resident wants to move from Phoenix to Nashville? They don't take their home with them. That would cost about $30,000. They're not going to do that. So they sell their home, they put it up for sale, and a new resident comes in. They look at the home and say, yes, I want to buy it. They come to some kind of terms. They come into our office and they qualify as a resident. So they go through the background checks and the same stuff that anybody would. And then once all of that's approved, they purchase the home from the previous tenant. Our experience as the owner of the property is we had the old tenant in there paying the rent last month, and we have the new tenant in there paying the rent this month. And there's no gap. There was never, for us, the income was always consistent. It's just a different person paying the lot rent each month. And then, of course, the name on the lease is a different name now, but somebody else owns that home. So the homes that trade inside of a mobile home park are a combination of homes that trade from tenant to tenant and homes that trade from us as the owner to a new tenant.
I see.
Good question, though.
And then I have another question. Like, what are the market price now for those homes? What are the range?
It depends on where you are. In a major market where the quality of the real estate is high, a single wide mobile home park, call it 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot, low quality or just like the minimum quality, probably $75,000 would be the sale price on that to the resident. And then if you put granite and stainless, and some of our parks are really nice. So they look just like it. If you're inside of that home, you would not be able to tell that it wasn't a single family residence. It's 2x6 construction, granite countertops, the same cabinets that go into a site built home, drywall. They all look exactly the same, but those might be $120,000 to $150,000. And then if you get high end triple wides, they can get really expensive, but generally in the affordable housing business, it's going to be between 70 and 150,000 for new homes. And then used homes can be again, depending on where it is and how nice it is, typically when we're renovating new used homes, we tear them down to the studs and start over, especially if it's in a community where we're going to also bring in new homes. So we might purchase those from the previous owner for 20 or 30 grand, but then we'll drop another 30, 40 grand into them and we'll sell them for 80 to 100 grand, depending on what the speed in the marketplace is. So yeah, used homes, you'll be able to find used homes that are in terrible condition that you could buy for 30 grand, but then you have to fix it up.
My last question is, a friend of mine have a mobile home park in Monroe, Louisiana. Is that a market that you like or dislike?
Yeah, that's not a market that we would go to. And I don't know the market well, but I know all the states that we're interested in, and Louisiana is not one of them. Even Alabama, we would probably only buy parks in one market in Alabama. So one of the things that we look for is the median home value in the marketplace should be at least 300 grand. And I'd like it to be more than that. And here's a reason why. If a new home costs, let's call it $100,000 on average for a resident who's going to come into your park. If you're in an inexpensive rural market where median home values are 150 grand, what's the incentive for somebody to buy a brand new home in your park and pay you lot rent every month? When the chattel financing for a mobile home is going to be on a shorter amortization schedule and the interest rate's going to be higher. So therefore, their monthly payment on a single family home in the same neighborhood would be the same as it would be to live in your mobile home park. Where mobile home parks shine is that the affordability stands out. So if you're in a $300,000 market where their mortgage is going to be 300 grand versus chattel financing on 100 grand, the payment's going to be substantially less. Even at a higher interest rate with a shorter amortization schedule, it'll still be substantially less. If you're in a $500,000 neighborhood and you have a mobile home park there, you'd have a waiting list and they would be bidding on a $100,000 mobile home. So the more expensive the market, the easier it is to sell homes in that market.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I live in California. Some of the mobile home here is like $500,000 to $1 million.
Right. That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been very informative. I learned something new today. Thank you.
Thank you, CV.
You're welcome.
All right, Bob, are you there? I see you have a question. Can you unmute and come on camera? Bob Ritchie. All right, I'll circle back to you. Jeff, I see you have a question. Go ahead and unmute, sir.
Hey, I was just checking to see. I know I got on the tail end, but are they most of the trades financed, or is most of the trades cash deals?
You're talking about the mobile home parks themselves. In the arena that we play in, they're mostly financed.
Yeah.
There's cash deals and a lot of seller finance deals when you start to go into less primary markets or less quality assets or smaller assets. But if you came in later, you probably didn't hear that we're focusing on $10 to $40 million assets. So you're buying a $20 million asset. Very few of those trade for cash.
And I know you say you're broke. Are you selling? I used to be a Fleetwood Homes district manager. So I developed mobile home parks, Rehoboth Beach, Maryland, New York, all over the East Coast. And we built the park model homes and what was originally probably the original tiny house. And now everybody thinks it's the rage, but we did that stuff 35 years ago. And now they're all thinking that's the rage. No, it's been done a long time ago. Are you doing a lot of the tiny, smaller properties at all?
We have a couple of those. We have a park in Yuma with about 150 lots, and that's got 70% park models in it. And we'll bring in 3 or 4 new ones each year, just keep filling those up. But yeah, our focus is more mobile home parks. So we want to have larger spaces. I want permanent housing there. A lot of times there's probably a place for those. And this is, again, probably a niche thing where park models, by the way, cheaper than a tiny home, way better than a tiny home. We buy park models for 40 grand. 45 grand all day.
Yep.
Now you still have to deliver them and set them up and put awnings and air conditioning and all that stuff on them. So they're 60 grand to the consumer, but
they're financeable. And they're HUD certified and they've been done in a factory. I remember the biggest thing when I first started was that red tag on the back of that mobile home. If it wasn't there, man, it was never be financed. And the paperwork has to be right.
We own some Fleetwoods in that park in Arizona. So when things were difficult in 2021, so this would have been COVID, when you couldn't get mobile homes, it was a 24-month waiting list. I was calling every manufacturer everywhere and just networking until I found someone who didn't pick up their order, and it was 11 Fleetwoods. I said, we'll take those.
Right
It was
away.
just hard to get them. Those are nice homes.
Did you buy them out of Roxborough or out of, what is it, Middletown, Pennsylvania?
I don't know where they came from. I just know that the conversation was with somebody local here who was the one who placed the order and they couldn't fill it.
Yeah.
So we just stepped in and took their spot. But I think they came from either Texas or Florida. I mean, it's Texas or California.
Yeah.
One of the two. Yeah.
It's a great business. It really is a unique model, and it's probably the most affordable housing in America, and to where you actually own your door. So I think it's awesome. Good luck, Jack.
Right.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate it.
All right, Jack, one last question for you from Bob here. And he said, I may have missed this. What number of pads have you come to find make the best purchases or deals?
So that's, again, it depends.
You're like an attorney now, right?
Well,
Every answer start with it depends.
when we were getting started, we thought a 20-lot mobile home park was awesome. It's just big enough to create some scale where it's worth your time to go over there and pay attention to it. You got 20 residents to choose from. You can most likely find one responsible person that could be your eyes on the property, pay them or incentivize them in a way where they can act as your on-site manager, even though the park doesn't really need one. But at least you have somebody on site. That's a very profitable way to do business. But if you're going to scale like we've chosen to do, what we've discovered is we're going to put on-site staff on every property. So this becomes the fulcrum which answers that question.
I see.
Typically, it takes the same amount of staff to run 50 spaces as it does to run 150 spaces. So first of all, have that be present in your mind. In order to hire really attractive quality staff that has experience, they've been in the industry, they know what they're doing, and they can help you turn your park around, you got to have at least 50 spaces or the revenue from the property is not going to be able to pay their salary. So that was this discovery for us. So when we got started, and we figured that out relatively quick, we owned about 350 lots prior to forming 5210. And that was a combination of little parks spread all over the place and one large park in a mining community that we discovered we couldn't sell homes at. So location actually is important. If you build it, they will not come if there's no work there. That's how it turns out. We were profitable on all of those, but the lessons that we learned there was let's focus on parks that are 50 spaces or larger. And as we've grown today, I probably wouldn't buy a 50 space park unless it was on the same street as one I already owned, and then we're just adding scale there. So maybe expand your current footprint with something like that, but I wouldn't purchase a park like that to stand on its own. But that's just because our cost of running the business is higher because we have a lot of staff. So each property that we purchase, we want to make sure that it's worth our staff's time to pay attention to it. That's why we're buying larger assets.
I see. Very cool. All right. I said last question, but one last question. I'm curious, what's the reasoning or the significance behind your brand 5210?
When Nate and I started this business, our goal was let's buy 52 parks in 10 years. Now,
Wow.
so we wanted to stare at our BHAG.
I
Keep in
see.
mind, we thought it was going to be a 50 space park. So that's 2,600 lots. And we're about 3/4 the way there. And we're just
Wow.
into the 8th year. So we still could actually hit that goal. But I think that as you grow, things you didn't see when you started. And so to us, 2,600 lots is, we'll be there next year. We're probably going to end up being one of the top 50 park owners in the United States before we decide to let off the gas.
I see. At which point you're gonna have to rebrand it to, I don't know, 102.
No, actually, that might end up being 52 because we're buying larger parks now. You start
Oh
buying
yeah, that's
parks
right.
of
That's right.
250 lots, that's 5 parks at a time. So yeah, it actually might end up being that number.
Very cool. Jack, it's been a pleasure and an honor to be able to interview you today. I just have so many mindset shifts today about mobile home parks. And so that's a really good thing. So thank you so much for your generosity to come on our show today and just really being open and willing to share your whole business model with us.
Yeah, I see some familiar faces here too. I've got the pleasure of meeting Angel Williams not too long ago. See her on the screen. Yeah, you have a neat culture and you got a neat following, Tim. Love it.
Thank you, Jack. Everyone, let's turn on your camera. We're going to take a group picture with Jack real quick, and then we will wrap up today. We're not going to do breakout sessions today, just so I can get ready for the event that's starting tomorrow. But everybody, turn on your cameras. See a lot of cameras off right now. Turn it on. Yeah, we want to see your pretty faces. All the guys, if you need to put on your lipstick, go ahead. All right, Jack. We flex to post for our group picture on the show. There you go. Wow. Okay, everyone, you guys ready? 3, 2, 1. Yay. All right. Again, Jack, thank you so much for being on, and I really appreciate you. And yeah, everyone, like I mentioned, we're gonna skip the breakout session today. Come back in next week. We'll make sure to have it next week. Everybody, you have an amazing week. If you're coming to Houston, I look forward to seeing you. And if you're not, get your butt over here. Everyone, see ya. Thank
See ya,
you.
Tim. Good.